All right, everyone, and welcome to tonight's guest on the Crypto Tonight Show. We have with us Bill Champagne, the author of multiple books, including the Book of Satoshi and Bitcoin versus Altcoins. Welcome, Phil. Welcome. And thanks for joining us this time of year. We know it's Halloween. It's a bit spooky out there. Did you have any shenanigans you were up to this past week?
Not much, Thank you, Ken.
Yeah, absolutely. Welcome aboard here. And so what the heck is up with the Fed threatening to sue Bitcoin Magazine? I saw that post in your timeline earlier and I just couldn't wrap my head around it. What's going on there?
Yeah, it's just hilarious. When you consider that one of the arguments I would think of to add to the list of things, because Bitcoin Magazine did a very good articles about all the things and a good reply. And the point is, it's like it doesn't make sense when you consider that everybody is forced to use their product. It's a private bank. That's the reason why they're allowing themselves to sue, because because the government doesn't have any property rights.
And they're trying to claim copyright over, what is it, the printer's burr?
If it was really part of the government, there wouldn't be any copyrights infringement for using a logo of something. So obviously that's one thing that is pretty funny. But the other thing is, like, they have no case because it's they have FEDNOW with ICing. And there's the report that Vuitton lost a case about this too. They did the lawsuit something a few years ago, and they lost. And it just shows that this is actually, you're completely in their rights to do this, and just to their letters is really good. And so everybody should check out Bitcoin Magazine for what their reply. It was pretty fun.
We'll definitely do that. And so what the heck is up with this Jim Cramer meme? We see it everywhere. Maybe the audience doesn't know what's going on there. So explain to us a little bit about the Cramer effect.
Yeah. So he's been here, probably if you've seen, if you remember, with the 2008 crash, just before Lehman, I think it was Lehman Brothers, just before it crashed, or Bear Stearns, one or the other. He was saying, no, there's no problem, buy the stock. 3 days later, it was bankrupt, And so now there's a guy on Twitter who actually, it's the reverse Cramer or something like this. And so basically, he has the face of Cramer, but upside down as his logo. And every time Cramer makes a prediction about the stock, whatever, here's the thing, it's stock tip. If he's saying it's going to go up, short sell it. If he said, because his track record is actually amazing on being wrong. So it's pretty hilarious. And apparently, he had one about, I'm convinced SBF is going to be not convicted. He said that. And here it goes. It's been convicted with 7 all counts. But so I took a look at his actual Twitter account, and that tweet was not there. But the guy who posted it and who did a screenshot, I think he pointed out to me that it's probably because it's been deleted. It is probably deleted. So I'm not sure if it really was crafted or if he really got deleted after. It's one or the other. But it'll be typical in his in the kind of move that will do is, making a wrong claim, a wrong call.
So fade Cramer. Fade Cramer, the Cramer inverse index, I think is what it is.
Yeah.
Awesome, Phil. So you actually had some wonderful speaking events that you had this past year. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about what you spoke on? I think there were Bitcoin specific conferences, weren't they?
Yes, all of them. Yeah, both of them. One was in France, in Biarritz, which is on the southwest of France, close to the border with Spain. My speech was in English. And it was mostly about all the different investments overall, and basically these guys are created the title for the event for my speech, and I'm not the one, but they call it the shitcoiners point of view on Bitcoin. So a little bit hilarious is like I have to spin around those things, but I pointed out those that are bad, the bad investments. I focused on those. And on the other thing I pointed out, and the other event was Pacific Bitcoin, where I was part of a panel about basically time machine kind of Bitcoin, going over past event and what it means and so on. So it was cool.
Yeah, and I would say you're our resident Bitcoin expert. Of course, you've written the Book of Satoshi, and you have a second book that was released recently here, Bitcoin versus Altcoins.
Correct.
And what's that book all about? Where can we find it? Where can we buy it?
Amazon.com. And the core principle is that so many people, mostly that comes in and don't know anything about the crypto space. All they see is Bitcoin, and they learn about a bunch of others. They all get confused about why there's this, all the Bitcoiners are saying shit coins all the time. And I mean, why is it all about what exactly is going on that? So that's where the purpose of the book. And I think the way I wrote it, there might be some Bitcoin maximalists that will be a little bit angry at me for not being harsh enough. But there's definitely a bunch of people in altcoins that will throw tomatoes as well. Because I'm biased, unbiased kind of thing, somewhere in between, and more biased towards Bitcoin. I mean, the core principle for me is like, okay, why do we need decentralization? And I bring up the proof of debt. We've got proof of work, proof of stake, and Federal Reserve and all those central banks are using proof of debt. And I go over the details of that. And then I go over the reason why with a bunch of examples, like the Liberty dollars, like silver coins that was created in the late 90s. They got, ran by the Fed and so on. So the importance of decentralization to avoid those things. And so I go over what the proof of work versus proof of stake, and then certainly proof of authority, and then so on. So that's how I go through.
Awesome. And everyone, again, check that out on Amazon. Find it, Bitcoin versus Altcoins. Awesome. And Phil, so the Bitcoin halving, the block reward halving is coming up in, what is it, April 2024? It's interesting. What do you think this halving is going to have for like an impact on, obviously the inflation's going down, right? There's less new coins being issued in circulation every 10 minutes. What do you think the impact's going to have on the price or the market in general after this event?
Yeah, so it's a little bit funny because there's a lot of, there's some technical analysts, very good chartists that basically they look at this and they don't see a direct correlation between the Bitcoin halving and the price of Bitcoin. They look at and they see more a correlation between the stock market and Bitcoin, which has been, well, I mean, when you look at it, Bitcoin was started in 2009, where the market was at the bottom and all it had to do was moving up. They started to reprint after the crash and so on. And so obviously when you look at this, Bitcoin, it starts from zero, it can only go up. And these guys they had their crash, it's always crafted, that just like 1929. They know when they're going to pull the plug, And so there's a correlation that is strong on that, but it's starting to dislocate a little bit when you see sometimes the whoops. And so I wonder what is at play right now in terms of, okay, are they going to prop up again the market just to keep up with Bitcoin? Or is it actually a reaction? I don't know. But definitely when you think about it, when you put it in the minds of gold mining, if gold mining was cut in half next year, suddenly instead of, I don't know, 1,000 tons per year that wasn't being mined, it was 500. Everybody in their mind is like, yeah, well, it's going to move up the price, and it will put pressure. And so it's obvious. And then you get those cycles in Bitcoin, but also it reflects into the altcoins because now everybody's price really set up the expectation, not expectation, but the movement of what people think is very influenced by the price and sentiments. Yeah, that's right. Price influence sentiments heavily. And so when they start to see Bitcoin going up, and some will say, well, it's so expensive and so on, you're going to have those cycles as well that go into altcoins in some way. Now, that will be leading to a bunch of craziness, and there's some bad and good in that. And this is mostly, a lot of people get hurt in those things. Well, Bitcoin also has a lot of movement as well, but the fact that it's growing and its market cap is getting bigger and bigger, and now it's just 20 times smaller than gold. So at some point it will get even closer to gold. And once it does, then the price fluctuation of Bitcoin will be much more minimized.
I think that's Peter Schiff's worst nightmare.
Oh, yeah.
Coming true in real time. That's awesome. Great insights on the crypto market, the Bitcoin halving in general. I'd like to get your take on what I think is a housing market bubble with interest rates near 7% or higher. What is your take on, is this sustainable? Where do you see the housing market going in the foreseeable future?
Yeah, definitely. You're right on target. I don't need to tell you more. So price pressure is going on. So when you talk about real estate, there are multiple angles, commercial real estate, the multifamily sectors, and then there are single family homes. And but all of them right now are really having big pressures. And it's very obvious considering that this is the first time in history that interest rates have risen so fast, so high in so short time. And so obviously it's even worse than 2008, 2007. So, and even in 2007, at least it's starting to go down so people could refinance and all that. And right now there's no such thing as possible right now. So it's really right now really a mess, considering the amount of inflation that is going on and the people that are realizing that inflation is not necessarily going away. At some point, there will be a realization that they are not able to manage this properly. But let's think, normally what you would suspect is something like 2008, the Big Short movie, for example. It's everybody's scared, so I need to stay in dollars, But I think people are going to realize that, it's, they might not be able to afford a crash this time. If they do, it's complete freeze of the banking sector. Or they're going to have to print so much that in a matter of a few weeks, months after that, we're going to be in hyperinflation. And we're really at a critical point right now where things are really in a mess and so severe that they have to figure a way to navigate through that as much. And I think they're going to be trying to avoid a big major crash and just trying to operate the way they've been since 2008, with small ups and downs and all that. Will they be succeeding? I don't know. But one thing sure, we're going to have more inflation, way more.
And probably more lawsuits from the Fed against companies calling them out for inflation. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So again, great market insights on the housing market as well. And so this week, we obviously had some huge news in the crypto industry regarding Sam Bankman-Fried FTX. So SBF had his trial for the FTX scandal this past week. It was a rigorous trial where the prosecutors picked SBF apart, and ultimately he was found guilty on all 7 criminal charges, all fraud counts. And the founder, SBF, is actually facing a maximum of 115 years in prison. Now, you believe there's more to what meets the eye in this situation, and you have a very interesting take on the whole FTX scandal in general. Very curious if you could tell our audience here, what's going on from your perspective.
Yeah. So obviously you have no full actual evidence for that. But I found it very curious that, 2019, I started the FTX and it went up, it rose up so fast and dominance. Normally you'll have a how could they be managing to be so in the forefront of big thing, capturing everybody's attention? Oh, hey, here's the new exchange, And to me, if this FTX, because what they did was, as people were depositing their Bitcoin and all their altcoins into their exchanges, it was in the back, they were selling it and then making a bunch of parties and all that, but including a lot of money that went to the Democrats and rhinos and politicians for their campaign. And the fact that they sold so many Bitcoin and altcoins put a cap on the price. And I believe that Bitcoin would have reached $100,000 this last cycle in terms of booms. And it just put so much pressure that it did not. And eventually it got the crash because of all the selling that has been going, the wrong selling, So that's my take. And now what I'm curious to know is how many years he's going to get. Okay, he was not able to escape being captured. Being convicted and all that. Now the question is, will they give him just 6 months or a year or something like that instead of 120 years? So if the judge is, we'll see what happened there, because that's the next chapter to verify how much is he going to be. Oh, you've been so nice with us with all this and those donations that just 6 months will do.
What's this? I'm being told right now that we actually have some live footage of the SBF trial and the prosecutor asking SBF questions. Yeah. Let's check this out. All rise for the Honorable State Prosecutor. Thank you. You all may be seated, and we will begin questioning Mr. SBF in regards to his company, FTX, and the defrauding of billions in investor money. Sam, now I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and you're required to answer with the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. Now let's begin. Sam, it was found that the former CEO of FTX, Caroline, presented you with a list of 7+ different balance sheets, one on each tab of an Excel file, to show investors when they became suspicious of fraud activities. How can you explain the need for this many versions of a balance sheet?
I don't recall.
You lie!
Really? Sam, now there are records of FTX spending millions of dollars on private jets, luxury condos, 5-star restaurants, and what's this? Multiple millions spent on something called WOW Gold, WOW Silver, and WOW Copper. How can you explain the need for all of these expenses?
Well, someone needs to have fun when they have to work so hard. So, and other than that, I don't recall.
You lie!
Don't recall, eh? Seems like I'm noticing a pattern with you. Don't recall. Time for the verdict. We, the jury, find SBF guilty. Okay, wow, that was some pretty suspect footage of the trial there. But, it was a good look inside the courtroom proceedings, I guess. All right, Phil, well, that's all the time we have today with you. Thank you for joining the show. Again, this is Phil Champagne, author of the Book of Satoshi and Bitcoin versus Altcoins. And of course, you can follow Phil on Twitter at egg_descrambler. Thank you so much for joining, Phil.
Thank you so much.
Phil Champagne, everybody.